I believe that we have density of talent. I believe that we have density as far as place goes. We do not have density of capital. That concerns me.
Hi, I'm Jayson Manship, host of Authentic and Agentic, presented by TechPoint. Every week on this show, we break down what's happening in AI and what it means for how we work, lead, and live. Join me for a human-focused conversation that keeps you ahead of the curve. This is the Authentic and Agentic podcast on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. Hey friends, welcome to the Authentic and Agentic podcast. I am your host, Jayson Manship. We have a fun one this week. So I'm sitting down with the CEO of Elevate Ventures, which is a large venture firm, venture development firm here in Indiana. And we get into all the weeds on deals, deal size, deal flow, how it works, how AI is impacting it, all of that. I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation because these guys are at the forefront of all this stuff here in the state of Indiana. Before we do that, though, I like to start every segment or every show with a segment about the news. And so this week, I've got a couple of really cool news stories for you. So let's dive right into that. I think this might be one of the most important AI stories of the year, and I haven't heard a whole lot of people talking about it. And so my friend Adam Brown actually introduced me to this concept, and I've dug a little since he told me about it. So I have read some credible reports that Anthropic, the people that make Claude, have developed their next gen model internally. So this is, just the way they continue to evolve and grow their frontier models and create the next best thing. They're calling this one Mythos, but they've hesitated to release it. They've pushed pause. And here's the interesting part. Not because it doesn't work, but the rumors are, at least the sources have said, because it could be working too well. So this one was designed to increase the normal model, but also to focus very heavily on the cybersecurity side of things, to help autonomously find vulnerabilities and help patch things, to help make AI more robust, to help make AI tech less vulnerable, to help protect against cyber attacks. And so super cool, super neat. The problem is any weapon that's created for defense can also be used for offense. And so I think that's where we're getting into an issue here. So the rumors are that the sources I read said that they pulled it because it's capable of exploiting major issues. It's capable of carrying out cyber attacks, not just helping to defend them. Think about that for a second. The technology is moving so fast and so powerful so quickly that the team building it, that designed it under the premise of let's use this to plug gaps, plug holes, and protect us, can be turned into a weapon. It can be used on the offense, not just the defense. And they said, hold on, before we put this out into the world, we really need to give some thought to this, right? This is a problem. Like if one bad actor can run thousands of AI agents, then hacking becomes automated, defenses can't keep up. It becomes a major, major issue and the internet starts to struggle. Like think about that for a second. If all security on the internet becomes hard to protect, right? What happens? I think this is a pause the release moment from one of the most advanced AI labs in the world because they are saying, hold on, we are not ready for this. If this hits the market, bad things can happen. Now, what I also know, though, is companies like Anthropic are sometimes forced isn't the right word, but sometimes encouraged, I guess, to push stuff out into the market before maybe they would choose to because of market demands, because they're competing against OpenAI and Gemini and all these other tools. And so, guys, we need to keep our finger on the pulse of this one. I don't have enough facts and details to really drill super deep into this, but I think this is well past the point of conspiracy theory. I think this is a very real situation that's underway right now. And all I'm suggesting for all of us listeners is to pay attention. When Mythos comes out, and if it's not Mythos, it'll be the next thing, right? All of these guys are space racing right now. They're all trying to get the coolest tech out in front of the world as fast as possible. If you've used Claude, cowork, code, any of that stuff, it's wild what it can do. Now, just imagine if a more capable, more complex, more nuanced model comes out that also understands cybersecurity. you have to imagine that this is coming. And I don't know that we know how to solve it. And so I think this is a very, very, very real problem and one we have to continue to monitor. And so I just flag it for you today. Know that it's in motion, and just something for us to keep our finger on. Okay. The other two stories I have actually are kind of in the same vein in that, like, these are things that are happening. This is me trying to, in some ways, certainly not predict the future, and maybe just paint kind of directionally where things are going. I'm pontificating a little bit here on what I think is happening, because a lot of times these big tech companies are doing stuff that, they're not going to disclose why or how or who or what they're doing, but they don't play checkers, right? They play chess. These people are trillion-dollar companies and they're thinking 6 moves ahead. And I think that's what we're starting to see here. So Apple recently, I've reported on this in the past, recently started doing podcasts via video, right? And so Apple podcasts have been kind of the preeminent podcast platform for a while now. But you've got Spotify and you've got YouTube, and human trends are shifting to watch the podcasts, have it on in the background while you're working, and have, a YouTube channel up and watching it. And so Apple said, you know what, we're going to be in this conversation. We're going to start to host video as well. Well, why? Right? With Anthropic, we were talking about AI that acts, that actually can go out and do things. For this, to me, it's more about AI that learns. I think they are expanding video inside of podcasts, not just to compete with YouTube and Spotify, but because I think that they are, if you think about it this way, podcasts are really the cleanest data set of human thinking that exists. Pause for a second there. The cleanest data set of human thinking that exists. They're long form. I mean, you guys are going to listen to me jibber jabber on for 40 minutes. They're conversational. They're nuanced. They're emotional. They're contextual, right? I mean, this is humans interacting in long form, conversational, nuanced, emotional, contextual content. And so if you're analyzing all of that and you are using that to train a model, then you start to become better at AI. It's not just about distribution of content. It's not just about eyeballs on tablets and devices. I think it's because Apple is trying to push on device AI. I think that Apple has long been focused on privacy first. And I think they're trying to become the company that builds the most context aware, voice native AI assistant in the world. And the way they're going to be able to do that is by consuming human conversations. Guys, I think this is a play. I think this is their strategy. And let me move on to story 3, because I think it fits with it. You also know, if you listen to the show for a while, that Netflix has started rolling out podcasts on Netflix, which is weird, right? It's like Netflix used to be a Blockbuster by mail, and then it became a streaming platform, and now it's the biggest streaming platform. And now Netflix decides they're going to start streaming podcasts when they have all this other content out there. I don't know. Why are they doing that? Right? I think Netflix is going maybe a step further here, where they're looking at what I would call algorithmic personalization or dynamic content. So bring podcasts in. They're starting to do some early experiments that people have talked about, where they're testing, how people respond. Okay, let's just play this out. So choose your own adventure books. If you're from my generation, my era, in your 40s or older, probably, there were these choose your own adventure books where you'd read the first 8 pages and then you'd have a choice, and you could skip to page 32 or skip to page 91. Then you'd read and you'd go somewhere else. And the story you read was different than the story I read based on choices you made. Guys, I honestly believe that is where Netflix is headed. I think they are trying to build an algorithmic content platform where the shows you and I watch don't have to be the exact same. Imagine a scenario where AI can adjust the content we're consuming, because we're all wired to just sit and veg, but it paces the show based on our attention span, or it monitors the tone according to our preferences, right? Or it generates different outcomes of a movie based on what we're interested in. Imagine a show like this. Ready? Imagine me going to Netflix and saying, hey, generate me a show like Breaking Bad, but I want it to be lighter, faster, and I want a better ending. I think that is where this is headed. Now, I don't know how that plays out. I think there's a zillion conversations here around rights, intellectual property, all that sort of stuff. But I'm telling you, like, these tech companies that are playing in the trillions of dollars range are thinking about the world this way. These are the problems they are trying to plan for and solve. This won't just magically happen. This is going to take years and years and years of strategy, of planning. And I think that's where we are, right? I think that the Anthropics of the world are dealing with the, man, we got to be careful to let this cat out of the bag or we might have a bigger problem. But also we have to stay competitive with OpenAI and Gemini and these other groups. I think that Apple is saying, hey, we got left behind on AI in a big way, at least up to date, but we have the devices. And I think if we can create the most capable virtual assistant, digital assistant in the world because of that, we can win. And then I think the Netflixes of the world are saying, how do we stay competitive? How do we stay relevant? How do we stay different? And the way they do that is stickiness, is about keeping you engaged and involved. And if you really think about that, like, look at humanity, look at the trends in social media and email and consumption and content. I mean, I think this whole idea of spending hundreds of millions of dollars to produce a movie with one story and one plot, and you just hope everyone likes it, feels odd to me in the world that we're moving forward. So just pause and think about that for a second. All right, we're going to do a quick break here. We have a new sponsor, Indiana Wesleyan University. We'll do a quick read from them, and then we'll do an introduction for Christopher Toph Day and get right into this week's episode. AI is transforming every industry, and Indiana Wesleyan University is preparing professionals to lead that change. IWU offers a Master of Science in AI and Data Analytics, a graduate certificate in AI Business Innovation, and an Applied AI Analytics concentration, all designed for working adults. Flexible, online, Christ-centered, and grounded in biblical ethics. Discover how IWU can help you find the way forward. Visit indwes.edu. Yeah, huge thanks to our new sponsor, Indiana Wesleyan. These guys, as I've said repeatedly, long before they became a sponsor, these guys get it. They are leaning into AI in a big way. That's funny because today's guest is Christopher Day from Elevate Ventures. I'll get to his bio in just a second. But I saw a handful of Toast guys at the AI3 conference that I will put on. And so the leaders are converging in the state of Indiana, and Indiana Wesleyan's a big part of that conversation. So thank you again for sponsoring this show. Before I get to my intro with Toph, though, I do have one other news piece that breaking news, really, frankly. This is stuff that just crossed my desk as I was preparing for this intro for Toph. And so I really wanted to get to it because I think it's pretty important. Let me grab it really fast. All right, so here it is. The over the weekend, Anthropic shut down the ability for third-party agent tools like OpenClaw to connect to Claude subscriptions. And so, in essence, you could have an OpenClaw account, boot up a Claude Cowork piece on it, and then use it to power all of your stuff. And AI or Anthropic is saying, hold on a second, because what's happening is this is the conflux, this is the struggle, this is the problem that needs to be solved here. People like me want to have autonomous agents. I want to have my Mac Mini that's sitting here on my desk running, and I want it to be able to use Claude and OpenAI and all these various tech tools to do things. The problem, though, is that Anthropic is paying for that, right? So if its machines are crunching and it's doing stuff, if I'm not personally there doing it as a user and my machine is just doing it and it's running 24/7, it's taxing their systems. And they're basically raising their hand right now and saying, hold on, this is not going to work for us. And so I think this is really interesting. I think that there's a conversation happening here around the cost of AI, about the competency and capability of AI, around whether it should be fully autonomous, how these labs are going to control their costs, what licensing looks like. But right now,
the note I got that prompted me to interject this prior to this intro for Toph is the $20 all-you-can-eat buffet just closed with Claude. And so I thought that was a pretty interesting headline and one worth talking about. And so we'll talk more in future episodes about how people are using these tools, but I think it is important just to bookmark that as part of this. So let me get to my interview for Toph, or my introduction, for Toph. So Christopher Day goes by Toph. He is the CEO of Elevate Ventures. They are, and he tells their story way better than I do, but I just want to give you a little background here. Number one most active seed and early stage investor in the entire Great Lakes area. They're a top 10 investor in the US and a top 20 globally. So these guys are putting a lot of cash on the table. He is the chief visionary for the Rally Conference, which is the largest cross-sector innovation conference on the globe. He is an innovator, an entrepreneur, a business creator, a community builder, a job maker, a wealth creator. Here's what I love the most. Over the last 30 years, he has co-founded 8 businesses in 7 different sectors. So this isn't like a one-hit wonder. This isn't a guy that just knows how to build a SaaS company or knows how to build, a retail business. He's been in 7 different sectors, and multiple of those have exited, not just like flailed out exited, but exited to Fortune 500 companies. Toph knows what he is doing. He's an awesome leader. He's out there on the forefront of all of this stuff, trying to make Indiana a better place. He's led these companies across sectors like AI, SaaS, hard tech, broadband, entertainment, investment banking, real estate. He's an IBJ 40 under 40. Cheers. And he's one of the IBJ's top 250 most influential and impactful leaders here in the state of Indiana. Let's get to my interview with Toph Day. AI isn't just changing jobs, it's changing who gets hired. TechPoint's new brief, AI amplifies the need to address the experience gap, shows how AI is changing entry-level jobs and how employers can take advantage of this moment. Download the brief and find out ways to get involved at techpoint.org/AI gap. Toph Day, Christopher Day, Elevate Ventures. Thank you for hosting me. I'm in your studio today.
Well, it's your studio because we're using it for your podcast. Jayson, it's awesome to
Well, you've been running a podcast for a while now. You've interviewed some pretty big guests on your podcast.
We've had a blast with it. It's been amazing.
I bet. It's been fun to listen to.
I don't know about you, but when I do a podcast, like I learn so much there in the moment. Yeah. And when I listen to them back, I learn even more. Yeah. It's an incredible experience.
And you've interviewed Alex Rodriguez, maybe a little guy who people have heard of, Run DMC.
So Daryl McDaniels, he might be one of my favorite guests.
I bet.
That guy is brilliant. And listen to his story on how he got into rapping, and they on the playground when he was a kid, and they went behind a thing in the little cassette recorder or something that was a brand new thing. But Kevin O'Leary and A-Rod and just amazing humans that had these interesting journeys.
How cool. Very, very cool. Well, we're in your studio today. We're going to talk about AI, but we're going to talk a lot about Elevate Ventures and really kind of warm up our community to understand what you guys do, how you do it, why you do it, those sorts of things. And so I want to start with the big picture. So I don't know Elevate. What is your elevator pitch? Dad joke.
There we go. So Elevate Ventures is the number one most, through Q1 of last year, the number one most active early stage investor in the Great Lakes region, top 10 in the country, top 10 or top 20 in the world. And we are a venture development organization, which means we do ecosystem building, entrepreneurship ecosystem building, or innovation ecosystem building, plus investing. So venture development is not venture capital.
Okay.
And the biggest differentiator is that ecosystem building component. And so we are tasked with covering all 92 counties throughout the state of Indiana. And we have people out in the field every single day. And we invest in cross-sector. So that means like software, hard tech, life sciences, consumer product, pre-seed, seed, and early stages. So our entry point is typically companies that have between 0 pre-rev and let's say maybe 2 or 3 million in revenue. And then we will follow on with investments. Historically, we will follow on sometimes as many as 5, 6, 7 times, follow on investments with companies along their journey. And we do, over the last kind of 5 years, we were doing over 100 deals a year, which is about every 2.8 days. It's insane, the velocity, the complexity of Elevate Ventures versus a venture capital firm that only does, let's say, SaaS, Series A, 3 to 5 deals a year.
Right.
The complexity of Elevate Ventures is exponential compared to a typical
volume
VC.
size and the fact that you're leaning in and not just stroking a check.
Right.
I saw somewhere that you use the term committed beyond capital.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So this year, Mohammed on our team that leads marketing added a period after committed.
That's good.
And that means it's kind of like the entrepreneurial spirit. Like no matter what the headwinds are, no matter what you throw at us, we are committed to this ecosystem. We are committed to the people. We are committed to the families. We are committed to the state. And we think about this as generational wealth. And when I use the word wealth, I'm not just talking about money, but I'm talking about the greatest place on planet Earth to live, work, and play. That is what we wake up every single day.
So good.
In our hearts, in every fiber of our bodies. And we take that work very seriously.
Well, and I'm glad you do. So I haven't shared the story with you, I don't think, but 2010, I had a chance to go out to Silicon Valley.
Yep.
Sat down with the godfather of angel investing, a guy named Ron Conway.
Yep.
And I asked him, hey, aspiring entrepreneur here in Indiana, what would you tell me? One piece of advice, what would you tell me? And his answer was, move to Silicon Valley.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep.
He said, everyone out, the ecosystem, same term, the ecosystem is here to support you. Back in Indiana, you're going to get left behind or you're going to leave others behind. There aren't going to be people that know what you're doing and you're going to be fighting uphill, basically. And so it sounds like you guys are flipping the script on that entirely.
So I think about two words, opportunity and accessibility. And in any given ecosystem, those are the two things that you want, opportunity and accessibility. And I think in Indiana, you get both.
Yeah.
In other markets, you get one or the other.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And that's that humble Hoosier thing. We do help each other.
Right.
In this state.
That's the biggest thing we hear at Rally, when the last 3 years we've been holding Rally, when people come from across the globe, I think we've had people here from 54 countries. They see two things every single time. Holy cow, you people are nice. Right?
It's a benefit in today's world.
You actually follow through and like make that introduction to a partner or to a customer or whatever it might be, a VC, whatever it might be. And holy cow, I had no idea this ecosystem existed, the assets we have.
So good.
And so when you start stacking up, I don't know if we can rattle off about 10 or 12, I can, but when you look at our ecosystem cross-sector, and you look at, we're bordered by more water than we are land. We have 45 miles of beach. We have the number one infrastructure. We have the number one airport in North America, 12, 13 years running. We have the number one valued pharma company. We have the number one pure play ag company, the number two animal health company, the number one healthcare system. We're number one advanced manufacturing jobs. We're the orthopedics capital of the world, the racing capital of the world, the amateur sports capital of the world. I could keep going. The most affordable city, the safest place to raise a family. When you look at our assets holistically, talent, we produce among the greatest talent in the world.
That's right.
I think Purdue now is number one on producing engineers.
Sure.
Number one undergraduate engineering college, Rose-Hulman. Largest medical school, IU. Largest Catholic Research University, Notre Dame. The list goes on. And I haven't gotten the top 5 yet. So but you look at this ecosystem and it's ease of navigation.
That's real.
And the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation, that's
You're
not
connected. Yeah.
In Indiana, it's 1, 2, right? Yeah. And it's just that's why I believe we're the innovation capital of the world, hands down. The world just doesn't know it yet.
I think that's an awesome story. And as someone who's been involved in this community for a very long time on the tech scene, that's probably been my biggest frustration. As humble Hoosiers, we don't like to take credit for things. We don't raise our hands and say, like, look at us, guys. We're here too, right? We know what we're doing.
We don't tell our story.
And that was when I left that conversation with Ron Conway. I came back pissed off.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys aren't any smarter than us.
That's right.
You guys aren't any better than us. Maybe you've been doing it a little longer, right? Or maybe you've had some bigger wins or bigger exits. But man, all that stuff you just rattled off is just telling. And I don't think people know that story. I don't think we appreciate that story.
Yeah, they might have. I love this word density as well. It's a really powerful word. So they have more density, right? Because they've been at it a little bit longer than we have. But people use these phrases like, so one of the phrases I summarily reject, you probably do as well, is flyover states. Summarily rejected. It's stricken from vocabulary. And so then people will kind of use these words like Silicon Prairie. That we are who we are.
That's right. Not lumped in with everybody else.
Like Silicon's so 1950s.
Sure.
I mean, right? That's old school. And so anyways, I think any ecosystem, any city, town, state, et cetera, we all have our own cultures, our own ecosystems. And when we embrace those, magical things can happen.
I love that. So if I'm a founder and I want to engage with Elevate, I apply today. What happens? What's that process look like? Like, how does a company that meets your
kind of starting phases there start to engage with you guys?
So the first place I'll start is what we invest in and what we cannot invest in.
Okay.
And so Kaufman Foundation uses this this concept of the tale of two entrepreneurs. And so they break them into SMBs and IDEs. So SMBs are small and medium-sized businesses, or SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. And then IDEs, innovation-driven enterprises.
Yep.
So the biggest distinction between those two would be like IDEs, the innovation-driven enterprises. You have technically a global customer base, $500 million TAM, total addressable market, or larger.
Okay.
SMBs are typically, the customer base is a 60-mile radius.
Yep.
It's more of your restaurants or pure play services, et cetera. So we cannot invest in SMBs.
Okay.
We invest in the IDEs, innovation-driven enterprises. And so then that's in software, hard tech, life sciences, or consumer product. And they apply online, or they can go through one of our VPs that we have around the state. We have 4 VPs that specialize in those sectors.
Okay.
And the first step is they meet with that VP and share their business plan, their business idea, wherever they are along the process, whether it's pre-seed, seed, or Series A, like pre-revenue, idea on a napkin.
Yep.
They kind of started.
They can talk to them idea on a napkin level.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have a pre-seed fund
that
is specifically meant towards idea on a napkin. We can go as low as $20,000.
Okay.
And so in that pre-seed fund, $20,000 to $100,000 does not require a one-to-one match.
Okay.
And that's fairly new. Jacob Spock on our team introduced that idea to our partners at IEDC probably 2 or 3 years ago. And it's been pretty successful.
And he knows that because he was at the ISBDC before that.
Exactly.
So he knows the small business.
Understands the whole world.
That's great.
And then all the other investing we do in the seed and we just call it kind of seed plus, that all does require a one-to-one match minimum. But basically that process is very similar to a VC.
Okay.
I'd say it's almost the same actually. The investment process, when you come into Elevate and you meet with the VP, you share your business plan or idea, you have some back and forth, they ask some questions, et cetera. You may not be quite ready to come into to fully pitch, so they'll try to help you get you ready. And then it goes into a what's called a vetting meeting. And then it's decided yet if that's ready to go to investment committee. Ultimately, it will make itself to a pitch.
Okay.
And then that goes to investment committee where it's voted on proceed with due diligence or not, yes or no. If it's a no, we always share why.
Sure.
It doesn't mean no forever.
Sure.
It means no, fix this or whatever it might be. And then comes back. And then ultimately, if it gets voted yes for due diligence, it goes through diligence. And then we ultimately vote yes or no for recommended investment and what the structure is, et cetera. And then the final checkbox is we tell our partners over IDC, here's this company and here's the parameters, and we are recommended investment of X dollars. And then they always check the box, yes or no.
Okay.
And those most of the times historically make it all the way through.
Yeah, you guys have done all the due diligence.
Yeah.
That's your role in this process.
Yeah.
You said something about one-to-one match. What does that mean to the layman?
Yep. So that means if, let's say we're going to invest, $100,000, $250,000 or $500,000 into a company. Let's say a company's raising $1 million.
Yep.
Depending on where they're at, we could do anywhere between $100,000 and $500,000. But whatever we put in, somebody else, another investor, an angel investor, another VC, but other investors would have to put in at least what we put in.
Okay.
So if we put in $250,000,
skin in the game,
they got to put in $250,000. That's right.
It makes total sense.
Yep.
So you get them into the process. How do you guys decide yes, no, maybe? Like how do you think through some of those decisions? I'm sure you're seeing hundreds or maybe thousands of pitches.
Well, thousands.
Yeah,
thousands.
How do you decide?
I think we've evaluated since inception over 8,000 companies. It's massive. So we use MELFO. So MELFO stands for Market, Entrepreneur, Legal, Financial, Operational.
Okay.
And so if you think about any company, these same principles apply to any company. Now they get more complex as that company grows.
Sure.
But if we break it down, we think about market. So like, who's your ideal customer profile? Do you know who that is? A lot of times people don't.
That's real.
It's real. And so we walk them through at that moment, like who's your ideal customer profile? Is this a real pain that somebody will pay dollars for? So that's kind of the market at the very granular entry level. Entrepreneur, think of that as team. So do you have the ability to sell and build the product? And we always say sell first because you can make the most gorgeous thing in the world, but if nobody's willing to buy it,
it doesn't matter.
It's kind of problematic.
That's a very real thing.
And so we all have skill sets, right? So you might have a financial skill set, operations, sales, technical, whatever your skill set is, we're always looking for the ability to sell and the ability to build. So that's kind of the big thing on entrepreneur. Then legal, have you set up the right framework? Have you put an option plan in place? Are there buy sell things, in your agreements, like just to clean?
And you guys help think through that or help push
We
that?
will.
Or, okay.
Yeah. And so we get into some really wonky stuff.
Sure.
Like we found, I love real estate, by the way. That was my first passion, my first love. But we've got some real estate, angel investors out there, and they'll kind of apply real estate kind of deal terms to
The startup,
to innovation, to startup tech deal terms. And those just don't always match up. Or we'll have investors that have put a 10x pref in a safe. Not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
And so we will help them unwind those things that have made them uninvestable.
Yeah, because at some point they need that capital.
They need that capital.
If they've made bad decisions in the past and just don't know any different.
Yeah.
And that's one of the struggles. And maybe that's part of what, thinking back to, Ron Conway's perspective, was just educating yourself and understanding what to do. So it's neat to see you guys walk along those people, not just in the writing the check side, but helping them think through that side. You talked about your check sizes. Let's talk about the that co-investment policy a little bit further. So are you finding that that's angels? Is there an angel network here? Is there, friends and family rounds? Like,
it can always be better. Do we have that? Yes.
Okay.
It can always be more robust and back to density, to get these ecosystems and these flywheels spinning. Not being fragmented too early is really important. But from an angel network standpoint, so there's groups like Vision Tech, there's Start Something Ventures. There's folks down in Bloomington that have groups that they put together, and we work with all those folks.
Okay.
Irish Angels, right? We work with all of these folks. The other thing with angel investing is we also encourage angel investors, because we want them to be around for a long time.
Sure.
And so if you've arrived at a point where you're going to do angel investing, if you have, let's say, 50 grand, we see a lot of angel investors that will put that 50 grand into a company.
And hope for the best.
Sure. And there's pretty good chance they're going to lose that 50 grand. Sure. And so if you get into one of these angel networks that only $2,500 of your 50 grand, so you're making 20 or 30 bets to really get to scale. Bare bones minimum 20, but you need to really be able to make 30 bets.
Okay.
And even more than that, you need to be able to follow on with the winners of the winners so that you can remain an angel and not lose all your money. And so we haven't gone strong into that education yet necessarily from an intentional standpoint, but we definitely have those conversations a lot of hey, hook up with one of these networks, right? Work with Vision Tech, work with, Start Something Ventures, work with one of these groups and invest through there versus independently, because we want you to be an angel investor 10 years from now.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about success metrics. I imagine when you say 30 deals, it's because most of them aren't going to work out.
Right.
You guys are investing in hundreds of deals.
Yes.
How do you monitor and measure the success on that? What have your outcomes looked like?
Yep.
How is Elevate performing?
Yes. Great question. So I'll kind of compare to, now I've got all these numbers going through my head, so I'm going to try to go through these methodically. So the first thing I'll do is maybe kind of level set. So venture capital versus venture development. So in venture capital, they will typically invest in about 1 out of 100 pitches. We invest in about 15 out of 100.
Okay.
So that's that ecosystem building difference you see.
You're taking bets on companies that aren't just unicorns.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right? Some of yours are just going to be
absolutely. It might be singles and doubles.
Sure.
Right.
Great.
It might be a jockey bet.
Okay.
Right. Where you're not really sure this
and the team.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so that's the number one comparison. So we're investing in 15 out of 100 versus 1 out of 100. So right there, some people think about it as the risk goes up, but I also think the power law comes into effect. And so if you look at venture capital as an asset class, somebody had done a study a long time ago that showed that VC in the middle quarter of the United States actually outperforms the coast by 1%.
Interesting.
Returns. It's pretty wild.
1% at that scale is a big number.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
And so, so that's the kind of the quick high level level set. If we measure what we do from an economic development standpoint first, right? So that's the venture development side of what we do, the events and the ecosystem building, all that kind of stuff. Where jobs is the North Star.
Okay.
And not only jobs, but high paying jobs.
Sure.
So we've helped create about 9,000 direct jobs since inception. We think that number is conservative because some of our companies, they stop reporting at some point. They don't have to report anymore.
Yep.
So we think it's well north of that, but the number that we know is 9,000. And if you do all the multipliers, about over 60,000 total jobs. We've created those 9,000 jobs at a cost of about $6,500 per job, and the direct jobs at a cost of about $950 per job. What does that mean? Is that good or bad? Well, if you look at the direct jobs and what those produce in sales tax and income tax back to the state in terms of revenue, that's about $5,500 a year. So that means that those jobs, the payoff, the ROI is about 14 months. It's absolutely insane.
Huh.
The average salary of our portfolio employees, the average salary is $96,000.
It's a real number.
Indiana's average salary is $59,000.
Right.
The national average is $65,000.
So you're blowing away the national.
So these jobs are 63% above.
Is that because there's just a couple people making millions at the top, or is that like a legitimate? I mean, there's always
it's well distributed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely. None of these entrepreneurs are making millions.
Right.
Hopefully they do when they exit.
Sure.
But no, they're all eating ramen noodles and scraping and scrapping whatever they can
Been
do.
there, done that. You and I both have done that.
We both have done.
It's a real thing.
For sure. I did it for 30 years, right? So those are kind of the high level economic development numbers. Maybe one more set of numbers I'll add on the economic development side before I get to the financial side is when we started Rally, right? So
give a little breakdown on Rally for the listeners that don't know what that is.
So the idea was, so we think we love threes here. And I personally love threes.
Okay.
It's just community capital acceleration. Like that's how we go to market. Like, and then we think about like local, regional, like state, national, global. So the office that we recently put downtown Indianapolis was very intentional. So that when our partners throughout the state are coming to talk to legislators or whatever it is, they have a place to call home. And so this idea of intentional connectivity went back to how we started the podcast. We don't have a good outlet to tell our story. On a global stage. And so the idea was, how do we put Indiana prominently on that national and global map as a place that should be taken seriously for innovation, where I want to build my business or expand my business. 2 years ago, we were ranked number 1, best state to start a tech company. And so the idea came up to like, there's all kinds of local, statewide, regional events. And we had one called Kinetic. And so I asked the team, hey, can we stop doing that? And let's just keep supporting all these other events even more so.
Let them do it.
And then let's go do something bigger.
Let's make the flagship.
Everybody come together, right? A big umbrella. Everybody's invited to the party. That the placeholder name was Mega Event.
Okay.
That eventually became Rally.
Sure.
And but the whole idea was to invite the world to our home.
Yeah.
And our home being the state of Indiana. And so they could experience what we have going on here. And just deepen relationships and all that kind of fun stuff. Rally has had well over a $50 million impact to the state of Indiana.
That's great.
And companies, if you look year over year, companies raise typically around $250 million from one year to the next that come to Rally.
That's great.
It's insane. But in the whole idea of Rally is back to that cross-sector that we talked about. So cross-sector, disparate stakeholders. Innovation does not happen by investor and entrepreneur alone. It's our policymakers, our economic development folks, our philanthropists, educators. It's all of these folks have a finger in the innovation pie, and we've got to stop thinking in silos.
That's real. So, and we got to start thinking bigger.
And
that's exactly what you're hitting at with Rally.
That's right.
Instead of bringing in a regional celebrity, you're bringing in Magic Johnson and Peyton Manning and
mixing that with the local and regional talent, right?
That's right.
And mashing that all together.
Making an event worth coming to, worth flying into, not just driving down the road to get to.
Yeah, literally people have come from 54 countries.
That's wonderful.
It's amazing.
Okay.
So now the financial side. On the financial side, we have about $235 million in assets under management.
Okay.
We've invested, we've deployed about $194 million in capital since inception.
Okay, so you've put out $194 million, you have $235 million in dollars.
In total assets.
Okay.
Yep. So out of that $194 million, and I say capital deployed because I'm going to break that apart, $180 million of that has gone into actual investments, convertible notes, equity, et cetera, right? Your typical investments where you have, there's equity involved. $14 million of that has been in grants and other programs.
Okay.
And so that's historical, the $14 million. Now we don't really do that anymore, that grant side of it.
Okay.
But that's the $194 million. Those dollars have been deployed in about 626 companies.
Okay.
Of those 626 companies, and these numbers are going to be slightly off if somebody calculates my math, but we've got spreadsheets we can show all this to people. But about 365 of those companies roughly are still active and trying to grow today.
Okay.
About 106 of those companies have exited or sold.
Great.
About 149 of those companies have dissolved or
Yep.
been written
Crashed
off.
and burned. Yeah.
Yep. So just that number, if you take the 149 versus 626,
It's funny because
it's insane.
people that aren't
In a good way.
entrepreneurs are looking at that number and saying, oh my God, 149 crashes and burns. Yes, but how many successes were there?
Right.
And that's the part that on the risk profile side of stuff, I think the state of Indiana struggled with.
Yeah.
I mean, legislators and a lot of folks that are leading the charge here don't want any failure,
Yep.
right? And that's what tech is. That's what startups are.
I always like to go to that Stanford where when they try to start commercializing companies, they try to commercialize 6,000 companies.
Okay.
And about 1,143 of those have ever made $1.
Wow.
And about 53 ever made over $1 million. And we know who one of them is, right? It's Google.
Yeah.
So it just shows that like this is shots on goal.
That's right.
And fail fast.
All right.
And then that's what.
But you guys are intentionally betting on not just the Googles, not just the unicorns.
Right.
You're betting on the ones that
like the bedrock of the economy, right? 64% of jobs roughly are created by companies less than 5 years old.
Let's do this. Can you give me a handful of examples, couple maybe, of
Let me finish up the financial results,
yeah, please.
and then we'll come back to some examples. So financial side. So now here we are. We are 626 companies. We have our folks that still are crushing it or trying to crush it.
Sure.
We have the folks that have sold and the folks that have dissolved. So if we add all that together, you can't measure IRR with what we do because it was designed and built.
IRR is what?
Internal rate of return.
Okay.
And so VCs will calculate IRR because those are closed-end funds.
Yep.
We were designed to be an evergreen fund.
Okay.
So for years, we were reinvesting dollars. When the returns came back, we'd reinvest dollars. So when you add all that up, there's another phrase called TVPI, total value to paid in capital.
Okay.
And so that's what we use. It's a number that's used in VC as well. It's applicable to evergreen funds. So if you add all those numbers that I just mentioned, we're at one point, this is as of June 30th of last year.
Okay.
We do mark to market twice a year. We'll have the through 12/31 here very soon because we have to wait for companies to report.
Sure.
So, but as of June 30, it was 1.2.
Okay.
So that means we're creating $1.20 in asset value for every dollar that we get to invest.
Yeah.
So is that good or bad? When we compare that to VC, we're operating better than nearly 50% of the pure play VCs.
Whose only job is to make the best
money.
bets. Yeah, that's literally the only thing they're trying to do.
It is insane.
That's great.
Quite simply, Elevate Ventures is economic development that pays for itself. So now let's keep going.
Well, I'm going to double click on that as an outsider.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm sure people are asking, why are we putting all this money into these organizations?
Yep.
Right. And at the end of the day, I mean, entrepreneurs like me are being encouraged to move to Silicon Valley.
Yep.
Right. And so this ecosystem has to exist, and there needs to be a tangible kind of group around making that happen. And you guys are leading that in a way that pays for itself. And I think that's really important for people to hear.
Yes. To make an ecosystem work, you must have talent, capital, and place.
Sure.
3 legs of the stool. And if you don't have one of those, the stool doesn't stand up very well.
Yeah. That's great.
So, all right. So to continue the financial results. So we just talked about that 1.2 performing nearly better than nearly 50% of the pure play VCs out there. So then let's look at the 363 companies that are still cranking today. They have a market value of about $143 million.
Okay.
As of the end of the year, we've had a total of about $67 million in total cash returns.
Okay.
And those existing companies that have 143, or excuse me, the companies that have exited, the 105 companies I mentioned that exited, they have about another $16 million in residual value.
Okay.
And we'll talk about an example of that here in a moment.
Yeah.
And so that's equity in the acquiring company that we get when that company exits.
Yeah.
So that's the high level. So if you look at economic development and financial results, ROI, returns, it's insane.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those specifics.
Yep.
Give our listeners an example or 2 or 3 of companies.
So one example is Adranos, a company up at Purdue.
Okay.
Solid rocket technology. and they end up selling they were a successful young company in Anduril, which we might have all heard of. Anduril just had it's $30 billion valuation. It's going to $60 billion, it sounds like. But we have equity in Anduril now as well.
Okay.
Right. And
because of the acquisition change.
Because of the acquisition. Smart Apply, smart sprayers, autonomous sprayers, that sold to John Deere. Things like Frozen Gardens up in northern Indiana, where she spent 8 years figuring out how to get legitimate vegetables and fruits flash frozen on site so you can make a smoothie in 30 seconds that's legit, real food.
Wow.
With no sugar added.
That sounds great.
These things are amazing. She makes several products, but I'm a customer.
Sure.
This food is amazing. And she makes protein bowls as well, but legit, good, healthy, quality food at a reasonable price.
And that's the difference between an IDE and an SME, right? She's not just creating a pop-up shop or a restaurant.
Right.
She's creating a process, a system that's scalable, that has customer base.
It literally took her 8 years to figure this out.
That's wild.
Of going through the process every step of the way. The supply chain.
Sure.
All those things that we all
as an entrepreneur, I mean, if you're in that case, I assume some level of gardening botanist, like your background is more probably plant level, right?
Yep.
You don't know how to structure a deal or
so
who
many,
to trust or
so many moving parts.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So you guys walk alongside those folks in all those places. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
But let me ask this question. I read a stat. It could be. I don't know. I don't know enough about this to know who to trust. But I read a stat from a reasonably responsible source that estimated about 66% of all new dollars coming into VC are now going towards AI companies.
Yep.
Or AI-enabled companies, or who knows who's trying to take credit for that.
Right.
What are you guys finding? Is AI driving the conversation now?
Yes. The short answer is absolutely yes. I would say there's still a lot of noise in the system.
That was going to be my follow-up question. Is it signal or noise, or what are we dealing with here?
So I think there's a lot of noise in the system, and I will just say that I think that there is a certain level of we're doing AI, and it's good old-fashioned sophisticated business intelligence or machine learning.
Sure.
Now, does the AI stuff exist? Absolutely, absolutely. We're getting there. So I think it's markets love to label trends and certain things to get certain investments and valuations and tell a story, et cetera. So I take it with a little bit of grain of salt. But do I believe that quote unquote AI, modern technology, like tech stacks, the way we build and do things has changed forever already? Not is changing, but it has already changed. Absolutely. And we actually been encouraging all of our software portfolio companies over the last couple of years to literally rebuild your software company using a modern tech stack, because they might have started 3 to 5, 7 years ago.
And it's changed.
And we actually, one of the companies did it. And I probably won't mention her name, but she's the first one that said, I'm going to go do this. She was in Silicon Valley at a conference having conversations. She literally called back here. And this is like 3 years ago. And she's like, Toph, I'm out here in California and they're saying X, Y, and Z. And what do you think about this? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, absolutely. And if we can be helpful to do it. And we had some conversations, and some folks in our team had conversations with her. And I mean, she did the work. We can't take any credit, but we absolutely supported her. Like, absolutely go rebuild your business parallel and then shift over your customers. And that's what she's in the process of doing right now. She's launched a new product, and now she's in the process of shifting the customers over. And but I do think that how we thought of SaaS. Now, there's going to be people who disagree with me, but I think if I'll just go to this simple example. If a SaaS company can produce $1, $2, $3, $10 million in revenue per FTE, how does a SaaS company hold up at the old levels of 1, 2, and 300,000?
Right.
It mathematically does not work.
That's exactly right.
And so maybe the company survives, but their valuation is going to be cut by well over 50%.
Yep. I was talking to the CEO of Replit last week in Washington, D.C. I went out to a conference. They're a vibe coding product, right? That lets people build apps basically right inside of their technology. And he said they're at $2 million revenue per FTE. That's a real number.
That's a real number. I mean, I'm getting chills right now with you just saying that. Like, just insane.
Yeah.
And so, like, the traditional SaaS company can't compete. And maybe people, I find a lot of people are talking about the actual product and the widget and what it kind of does, et cetera. Maybe that's going to survive for a while. But how long?
I can speak to this a little bit, and this is probably not a popular opinion, but I I have found over the last 6 months as an AI builder, right?
Yep.
I'm learning how to do all of this stuff hands-on, that I've turned off, I can name 3 or 4 different SaaS products that I paid for monthly because I rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And it does exactly what I want. And there is no like what you see is, or there is no you get what you get and you don't throw a fit because the software is opinionated.
Right.
It just won't do that thing.
Right.
Okay, I'll just build my own that will do that thing.
It's customized, it's simple, it's easy.
And I think we're going to see a trend moving in that direction further. And so I do have some broad concerns around the SaaS market. I saw that when Claude Cowork came out, it really put a damper on the SaaS kind of market caps.
Yep.
Right. You saw companies lose a lot of market valuation dollars because they saw, wow, this is a real thing.
100%. The CRM.
Yeah. Stuff.
I just don't know how, and I don't know what the new model is going to be yet. We'll find out. But there's a lot of disgruntled folks who are just tired of being beholden. That this is what you have to be, and you have to kind of, figure out how to shave off your square peg to throw in the round hole kind of concept when you won't have to do that at scale.
Well, let me ask this question then, because I did an interview last week with some national firm that's trying to unpack the Indiana ecosystem. And they just asked me, as a longtime founder and entrepreneur in that tech space, a bunch of questions. And one of the things that you would know more about this than I do, but we've been really like a marketing technology hub for decades, really. Is that the future of Indiana?
No.
What is the future of Indiana?
So I'm going to share what I think about that, but one quick analogy.
Sure.
To what we're just talking about. So remember the BlackBerry?
Oh, yeah.
So true story, I used to spend a lot of time with investment bankers in New York, and they use BlackBerry.
Sure.
And so this new widget thing comes out, the iPhone.
Yeah.
And I got an iPhone. And they're like, what you can't use that. Right? That's not enterprise class. That's not enterprise grade.
Sure.
I'm like, what are you talking about? That thing is a relic. You can't even see the buttons. And
your fingers are definitely not that small.
Right?
Like it doesn't make
it's just insane. And they're like, that thing will be a failure. It will never work. It's going to get, whatever. All these excuses. And what happened?
It became a first $1 trillion company.
Yeah. BlackBerry just disappeared.
Yeah.
And so I think the same thing is happening right now with technology. We had in our venture report we talked about this great tilt. And you think about the gap we have with the increase in productivity, but our ability to adapt to execute with that increased capability. Mm-hmm. There's a massive gap right now. Now, how long is it going to take to close? Don't know. Is it 1 year or 3 years? It's not 10 years. Probably not 5 years. But when that gap closes, we're already hearing from a lot of students that a lot of just their typical internship opportunities have dried up.
Yeah.
Because the companies they don't know what's going to happen.
That's right.
Like, we're pretty sure we're not going to need like more people. So we're just going to kind of hang tight here.
Yeah.
Let some attrition happen as we figure out what this next 1, 2, 3 years looks like, which goes into, we need to stop thinking about how to get a job and how I'm going to create my job.
Yep.
Which is like WAP. It has a platform.
Yeah.
You want to go build something.
Yeah.
So back to Indiana. Do I think the future is marketing technology? Because that was kind of, we had a big run there for what, 20 years?
Yeah,
probably?
for sure.
I believe that the massive opportunity for us in Indiana is to take advantage of the physical economy. And so that's the intersections, the convergence of AI with physical.
Okay.
And so we think about, not that we won't have some sexy, like pure play software type things. That's great. Absolutely. We'll support that 100%. But there's nobody in the country that's better at advanced manufacturing than us. We are number one.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And those other things I listed off earlier, when it comes to physical goods, and that's cross sector too. It's not just in like auto. I'm talking in healthcare and whatever it is. But our opportunity to take advantage of the physical economy and the intersection of AI, the convergence, the infusion of AI into all those businesses, we have a massive once in a lifetime opportunity sit in front of us.
Yeah.
And that expands out to, like, we didn't talk about the 3 premier inland ports we have yet, right? And our ability to produce and even think about mass producing ships, for example, and all the technology that comes along with that. Fusion. We talk about nuclear in the Workforce 2040 book. I wrote a chapter in there and talked about, this is what, 2 or 3 years ago, nuclear fusion. Like, let's get serious about that with Purdue.
Yeah.
Let's get serious about quantum.
Yeah.
Like this quantum quarter, that's great. But let's get serious about an actual quantum computer. And if we want a couple moonshot products, I would put my money on Indiana all day long in the engineers and the folks that we have at Rose-Hulman and Purdue and the business folks at IU and Purdue. I hate to start using these university names because then you leave somebody out.
Sure.
All of our universities are amazing.
For sure.
Among the best talent in the world. We produced the man that went on the moon.
Yeah, that's right. One
small step. And so I would bet that we can actually solve nuclear fusion. Now, is that in 1 or 2 or 3 years? No. But do I believe if we really put some effort and some elbow grease behind it, could we get there in 10, 20, 30 years? I think so.
Well, let me ask you this question. I love your optimism. I'm an AI optimist, right? One of the things I've learned in some of these conversations recently with Congresswoman Erin Houchin, who represents Southern Indiana, with some of the other kind of industrial leaders in the space, to get there, we're going to need data centers. We're going to need some power grid changes. We're going to need some water changes. Indiana's similar to probably everywhere else where there's hesitancy in that process. What I saw in Washington, D.C. last week, I heard from the CEO of Constellation Energy. I heard from the president of Meta. She said that she believes that they need 500,000 more electricians in the next 2 years, right? But then the question is, where are we going to physically put all this stuff? And Indiana feels like advanced manufacturing kings, the capital, right, of that. How do we get state policy? How do we get the big picture vision to say, it's okay to support these jobs by putting in data centers and by putting in power and by making some of these changes that we need to make?
Yep. I think the first thing that needs to happen is to put together a summary of what's the right word I'm looking for, is to articulate what a data center is and is not, and what it does and what it doesn't do. And by that I mean water usage, power production, etc. There's a lot of incorrect information. I'll just say that's out there.
That.
And so I think that we need to, number one, just take a quick pause. This doesn't have to be for a year or something. Let's take a quick pause for a month or 2 or 3, and put together the facts of how these things work and how they don't work. I think that would be number one, super helpful. Number two, we've been known as a crossroads of America for
long as I can remember, yeah.
Right. And so I used to talk about, this goes back kind of 10, 15, 20 years ago. If you can't move people and goods from one place to another efficiently, then nothing else matters. Today, if you cannot move data from one place to another efficiently, then nothing else matters. And so having these data centers strategically located in Indiana as a part of the overall plan throughout the country is a must-have. And so I think we need to correct the narrative around power and energy consumption and water and how that works. We could also talk about maybe how we put a water loop throughout the entire state to better distribute water. But a lot of the water is also self-contained and reused. And so I just think it's critical. We have one of the biggest superhighways of fiber right here in downtown Indianapolis,
for sure,
on Henry Street. Right, there's a massive asset that nobody talks about. And so I think that that infrastructure is needed. You talked about electricians, 500,000 electricians. These are high-paying, highly skilled jobs. I think if we go backwards all the way to kindergarten, we could think about restructuring K through 12 and how we teach our kids, and no longer teach them to be robots in columns and rows. But how about a little open up the aperture? And so the way I think about that is like you have a tract of skilled professions. The trades somehow got a bad name. These are amazing jobs that pay high. I have a friend that has an HVAC company that 2 years out of high school, you can make $250,000.
It's a real number.
That's a real number. In these data center type jobs, these are high paying jobs and great jobs. So we think about kind of 3 tracks, like skilled professions, higher education, entrepreneurship. And AI weaves its way right throughout that tapestry throughout that K through 12 journey. And I think we're at a critical junction there too on how we raise our kids and teach our kids in school.
Yeah.
It's not the way it was 100 years ago.
For sure.
And so it's going to be a painful shift, but it's a shift that I think we really have to be brave
and we have to be having those conversations. That's the reason this podcast exists.
Yeah.
My goal is to push people around the dinner table with their kids, around their coworkers, like in the boardrooms, etc. I was at the St. Louis Zoo this last weekend with my kids, and my 10-year-old son. We go up to the polar bear exhibit, and the polar bear is like having a blast. It was really cute. He's like up against the window and like interacting with the audience there in the room. And my son's like, "Dad, ChatGPT's killing the polar bears." I said, "Where did you hear that, buddy?" Like, I think there is like this sentiment in this process out there that kind of oversimplifies and says AI, data centers, whatever, are ruining the world. And I mean, there is some merit to responsibly using our earthly resources, for sure. That's not a hard thing to comprehend, right? It's not infinite. But I think understanding how it fits together is pretty interesting. I heard from the CEO of Constellation this last week, and he said, I was shocked by this. 80% of the time, our power grid's only 50% used, right?
That's an interesting stat.
And the reason is because it has to be built for those peak moments. There's 1 or 2 times a year where the weather changes and all the air conditioning units kick on at the same time, right? But outside of that, it just kind of sits dormant. And it's built for that, which is wild to me. And that's from everything I've heard, it's one of the most antiquated systems in existence that's just powering our whole country.
Yes, I've heard that same thing with our power grid being antiquated. And these are things that these are not. I'm not sure what I want to say here or not say, but just like around quote unquote like politics, like these are things that just must haves.
That's
right? From an infrastructure standpoint, bridges, roads, infrastructure. Well, like
no one wanted the interstate to come through their farm,
right?
But look what it did to the world, right? No one wanted a pole out in front of your house to run an electric wire, but once you got electricity to your house,
kind of like that,
kind of makes a big difference, right? So I was actually talking to a farmer who got offered a land deal for a solar farm. And he was struggling with it. He's like, I mean, I've grown crops for people for my third, fourth generation of this, right? But then he had the realization that like, well, you can't keep the crops cold and you can't run any of the stuff without power. And so quite literally, I'm growing power was kind of the mindset for him, which was pretty interesting to think about. Right?
Yeah, that is interesting. And there's some issues with storage around
for sure.
Kind of fun stuff. I maybe even more critical. This is maybe a little bit of a. Let's just dive into it.
Sure.
If you look at the data around mental health and suicide, et cetera, and how that relates to the smartphone, so let's just hit social media head on. I believe that social media is one of the worst things that we can have for our children. The brains just are not ready for it.
That's right.
It doesn't mean they can't have an iPad and watch movies and all that kind of fun stuff. Doesn't mean they can't have a phone that they can call or text with, right, for safety purposes, et cetera. But our kids putting a supercomputer in our kids' hands before they even go to kindergarten destroys their brains. Synapses don't connect. It desensitizes. They're not able to connect with other humans. And we haven't heard much from Australia since they enacted theirs. Everybody's going crazy the 2 weeks leading up to it. And then you don't hear anything.
That's right.
Because kids find other stuff to do.
Yeah, I interviewed Dr. Katie Jenner, Secretary of Education, last week, and she shared that the average middle school girl in Indiana spends 3 hours per day scrolling on their phone.
So destructive.
Isn't that wild to think about?
It's so destructive. You even see it with adults. Like if
for sure,
like if when we start having real conversations off camera and all that kind of fun stuff, people talk about, oh my gosh, can you believe such and such? They have just such a wonderful life. That was one speck of a moment picture that's on Facebook or whatever, Instagram or something. Like social media is so destructive for our children. I don't know why it would be treated any different than drinking. Or maybe the age is different. Maybe it's 16 or maybe it's 18, whatever. Pick an age. But it literally is destroying our children.
I'm going to really click hard on this one because while I was at this conference in DC with Axios, the president of Meta Dina Powell McCormick was on stage being interviewed. 10 minutes before she went on stage, landmark trial case in LA.
Yep.
$6 million hit against Meta and Google.
Yep.
Because a woman basically made the case and a jury agreed that they were responsible for her depression, her anxiety, and mental health problems. And that's the first step probably in starting this, seeing some of this stuff unpack. And the question I posed as I thought through that, I was kind of coming back from that trip and thinking about this week's podcast episode. I did a deep dive on that conversation, and it made me think about the tobacco companies, right? The tobacco companies sold sex for a long time. Cool. It's Joe Cool, literally, right?
Joe Cool. That's right.
And like this, just enjoy this. It's refreshing, or it's relaxing, or whatever, right? And as we learned more about it, we learned it wasn't good for you.
Right.
And so the question that jury started to ask the tobacco companies were, when did you know?
Right.
When did you know this was not okay?
Yep.
So the question I would pose to the social media companies are, when did you know this is not okay? Because I interviewed some folks at the Notre Dame Institute for Ethics and the Common Good, and they're studying AI ethics, which is what a cool thing to do in today's world, right?
You can go deep with that topic.
Well, they interviewed a bunch of builders out in Silicon Valley, and the people that were building Instagram, Facebook, Meta, all these tools back in the day, they wouldn't let their children use those tools.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Because they knew this was a problem.
This is a problem.
And so I think there's some value in, we for sure need to be having this conversation. I think we may be a little too late at this point. But I applaud the legislator and other groups that are starting to have these conversations. I know they were working to push some stuff through this year. And I think it needs to happen. I mean, the fact that you're a 13-year-old kid, because of a law that was written in 1996, you have the right to create accounts and do whatever you want on the internet is wild to me.
So on the social media part, I don't think it's too late.
Okay.
Just turn it off.
Yeah.
I have an example with my son. I can't remember what app it was, but this stuff's just flying out of that.
Sure.
I mean, he went from 0 to 100
Sure.
in 48 hours.
And they will, right?
And I wish I can't remember the name of the app. But anyways, there was like some strings or something where you do something you have to do something every day.
Okay.
And they're like competing on who has the longest string, you know? Well, that's designed to be addictive,
100%.
right? So I'm like, we're done. We're going to delete that. We're not doing it anymore. And he forgot about it within 3 days.
It's great.
There's so much other stuff going on around in the world that's just amazing, and with interactions and so I don't think it's too late. Turn off the social media apps.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying we have to go back to rotary dial phones and long cords. We can still have a telephone and text or whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine. But let's let the brain develop. Cursive writing. There are studies that show that cursive writing helps synapses connect in your brain. Right. Calligraphy. All these things. Like, this is real stuff that helps our brains develop. Our brains don't develop until we're 23, 24, 25 years old.
And so these 12-year-olds that think they've got the world figured out, it's like, you don't even know what's going on.
And then their brain is being trained to just dopamine hit, snap, snap, snap. And so stuff never has a chance to truly connect and for fluid and things to flow.
Yeah.
There's no flow state that develops. And so then desensitization starts. And then they feel like less than because they don't, have whatever, whether it's the boy or the girl and whatever the friends have or whatever.
Sure.
And there's still enough of that without social media. I mean, I remember back when I was a kid, I wanted to have the colored striped socks of the Cowboys and the Steelers because my friends had them.
Sure.
I wanted to have Nikes. We couldn't afford them.
Sure.
I had Pro Keds.
Yeah.
From like Sears or something.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
I don't think it's too late to turn off social media.
That's good. Well, let me ask this final question. As you think about state of Indiana venture world that you're in, is there anything in particular that keeps you up at night? So I ask this question generally more broadly about AI, right? What is it that man, this is a hard problem we have to solve?
Yep.
Or this is something that I see coming crashing. What is that for you?
So at that every day.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
This is awesome.
Cheers.
Great time.
Yeah. Thanks again to Christopher Day and the team at Elevate Ventures for helping put this together. I got to record in their studio. Man, it's impressive. It was really, really neat. They're right there in downtown Indy, close to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So it was a lot of fun to just get down there and check out their space. As you can tell, Toph knows his stuff, man. He just understands this at a level most people don't. He is working hard. Him and his team are working hard behind the scenes to invest in the state that I care so deeply about. He is an impactful leader, as determined by IBJ. I mean, top 250 most influential leaders in the state of Indiana. This guy's doing big things. And so really fun to talk to him. If you haven't been to the Rally Conference, look forward to that. It is just a cool event, bringing in world leaders right here in our hometown. And Toph thinks big, man. He is doing really big things. And so just, again, grateful for him for coming on the show and for talking about all that stuff. Next week, I sit down with 3 leaders from ITIA, the technology group here in Indiana that is advising on policy issues for the state. We unpack some of the recent stuff going through the legislature and maybe what's coming next. I've got founder and CEO, serial entrepreneur, founder, CEO John Wexler, who's been on the show before. Good friend of mine, but he is a forefront leader in this space. I've got the executive director of the group, Jen Hollowell. She has been in the policy forefronts of all of this in tech for a long time. She is exceptional. And then I've got Zach Garsterson from Salesforce. And what's cool about Zach is he helps advise on the policy stuff here in Indiana, but he also has a deeper worldview. He works in other regions as well. And so he brings some context outside of just the state legislator here in Indiana. So we have a great conversation about what's changing and what's happening and how to be thinking about this stuff as a state in our next episode. And then after that, I've already recorded an episode with my friend Adam Brown. He runs a company called S Gridworks. Adam is, man, he's an enigma. He's a fun dude. So you'll have to tune in for his whole backstory. But he went from the sludge of the power industry, the coal industry, to the top of the power industry, where he is advising some of the biggest companies in the world on how to rethink power strategy in the grid as a national security and a redundant power strategy play. And so he is super fascinating dude, walks us through the problems we're facing. And I think it's one you're going to want to listen to. So next 2 episodes are recorded and ready to go. We got some people on spring break this week. Larry, my assistant, and Josh, our producer, are both taking the week off. So we've been trying to get stuff recorded so we can be ahead of the curve here. But as you guys know, if you're listening, AI changes every day. And so unfortunately, we can't record 6 or 8 months ahead of time. So having 2 in the bank is, Larry is happy with me right now. She feels like we're ahead of the curve. And so grateful for your continued listening. I can tell you, breaking news here, after we get through these couple episodes at the end of April, there's this little event going on here in Indiana called the Mira Awards. It is TechPoint's prestigious tech award. It's almost like the Oscars for tech, is if I could position it. And they have asked me to interview some guests. And so I'll have more details coming soon, but we're going to get a chance to talk to the companies that are leading and winning awards on the statewide level for AI. And so, again, grateful to TechPoint for the sponsorship of this podcast and for the ongoing partnership. Very much look forward to interviewing some of the folks that are taking home Mira Awards. It's going to be a really fun evening, and we're going to recap it and have some cool podcast content that comes from that. So thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys. Tell a friend, subscribe. We'll see you next week.